Sorry, guys. So I record these because not everybody can make them. If you had attended, like, give for an example, if vacation time comes up, you got a client, call it. I just kind of stick with a fixed time and whether you can make it or not. But I record it and put them up in in our app, the B2B Cohort app, so that if you had a point of view on that topic, you could share and keep that conversation going. The other reason I do that, in the past, if you've been to networking groups in person, there is this point towards the end of the meeting where some of the better conversations are had because the crowd is thinning. Some of the important people are still there and the conversation kind of lingers, and maybe the event ends on the dot. But that the conversation that's lingering can be quite valuable. And I've heard that from the past, from other networking events. And so I created there's a thread that goes along to allow the conversation to go. But if you weren't able to attend, but you still have a point of view, the recording kind of helps that or give you a point of reference to remember. Hey, Daniel, how are you, sir? So, so for those that came in, you haven't missed anything. I was just sharing I was sharing with Trevor and Marino. Trevor and Marino, say hi to everybody again. They're visiting with us today, trying to decide whether or not they want to join. And I was just sharing what they couldn't see on the B2B Cohort. But if you kind of saw my thread, you saw that conversation, so you haven't missed anything from that perspective. So I just wanted to kind of pass it. What I'm looking for is just like let's talk current elements in terms of what's happening in terms of operations and whatnot. What are you guys discovering nowadays? I mean, there's lots of things to talk about from the macro perspective. Like we could definitely cover. Oh, look, the interest rate. There's a news announcement. The interest rate dropped to 1.7% growth. It was predicted to go down to 1.5 by I think it was one of the banks, or central bank, and 1.6 by the general market. And what does that mean? It actually means a couple things. No, the market's not slowing down. There's a little bit of that. In that, there's if you remember the carbon tax that's put on the pump, so that came off. That puts a natural element in there that reduces costs. So that can, the reduced cost can present as lowering prices and lowering costs in the environment. But the fact that it was also higher than what the banks had predicted says, well, maybe the economy is heating up, but there's other elements in there. I don't want to be talking about things like that unless you guys got some interesting things to be sharing about that. We've had a lot of conversations about things like that and just thought I'd get a little deeper. I did this on Tuesday with the revenue group to say, share some recent wins or challenges. I'd say with the wins, share what happened, even if it's a win of somebody else that you've recognized, something that you learned from that win, and the challenges in particular. And I had shared one through the B2B. But,
sorry, Richard, did you just say the interest rates went down today?
No, I think he meant inflation.
Inflation, sorry. Yeah, not interest rates. Sorry. Did I say interest rates? Yeah. Okay. Inflation, yeah, sorry. The bank did not do an interest rate. No, sorry. Thank you.
That happens in June. The interest rate.
Yeah, so inflation, sorry. No, thank you for catching that. That does make a lot more sense. The chief finance guy is going to catch that, of course. Right?
I know I'm tired. I can't be that tired.
I missed something all entirely.
There was no announcement today by Bank of Canada.
Yeah, no, sorry. What's going on again? Yeah, inflation, which, I was listening to a good podcast about talking about from the UK's perspective too about it. Just how they're interviewing somebody talking about world trade and whatnot, and they're actually they're talking about where they want to move in terms of their bank rates too. And this lady who follows more international trade wanted to push it higher. She wants to drop it by 50 basis points. The general consensus is drop it by 25 basis points. And she's given rationale around stuff that you don't normally think about from the bank's perspective, like you look internally. But she's talking about all these things that can add a wave. What if this happens? What if that happens? It's pretty interesting just kind of hear that stuff. Again, it's not what I really wanted to talk about, but do you guys have any? Do you have finance guys, Rajiv and Manu, any perspectives on that? Anything you want to share that's actually accurate?
Yeah, I think I think the next rate cut is announcement
June.
is what, June? Yeah.
June, yeah.
I see 25 beats, no more.
Yeah.
And I think they'll probably hold for the next one and reduce it another 25, and then they cut it off for the
So Manu says nothing. You say 25 basis.
Yeah.
What's
Let's
your
put wagers
rationale?
on it. Let's put wagers on this and see what happens.
Yeah.
There's a lot that can happen. Well, it's June is not too far away. I guess there's what you're not going to see anything change. There's still a 90-day between the U.S. and China and stuff like that. Yeah, I can see. Why do you say it's going to stay the same, New?
Because the inflation going down was artificial.
Yeah.
Carbon tax was not eliminated; it was just brought down to zero.
Mm-hmm.
So the policy still stands for carbon tax as is. And secondly, Carney, on top of what Trudeau had promised in the budget, he wants to add an additional $60 billion. So that will just automatically lead to more inflation. And which that means is the housing will take another hit. So this is tier 2 that we're seeing right now in 2025. It's gotten worse in 24. And 26 will get worse. And then in addition, it'll put upward pressure on pricing because of inflation. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, so they're trying to tamper that, I guess.
But we'll see. We'll see.
What are your thoughts on that, Rajiv?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Manu in the sense that the carbon tax is artificial, and the inflation reduction because the carbon tax is brought to zero. I mean, the other impact is that the gas prices have come down, which is certainly impacting the downward movement of inflation. I'm just kind of wondering about just in general economic contraction in Canada, right? Because at some point they need to be able to fuel that and to try and drive the economy forward, because that's my biggest fear that continue, because I think for Q1 we had a slight contraction, right? So
but Carney's not the guy, right? That's the thing. Carney's not the guy, number one. And number two, you can't forget that most mortgages are up for renewal in 25 and 26. A record number of mortgage up for renewal. And a lot of these old mortgages are sitting at 1% and 2%. So when their mortgages double to 4%, where it's at right now, 3.84%, a lot of homes are going to default.
Yep,
right?
I agree. Yeah.
They called that earlier too, though, and
It still happens. It's inevitable.
But that also is not necessarily good for us, right? Because they want to try to, I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like they need to try to mitigate some of that, because that much a default has an impact on, like, if there's defaults, and the banks are not in the business of owning property. That's not their job. That's not right. So to me, there needs to be that fine balance. That's why I feel like it's, if they're reducing rates, it's going to be about 25, no more, right? Because they want to be able to have that extra 25 down the road to see if that's even, they're not going to go really aggressive on that. That's my thought, anyways.
So I'm going to take it back to us and what matters to us from our client. Like, the thing with us, if you're a solopreneur like myself, if you're the one-man band, you can get busy pretty quick, right? You need a couple big projects, boom, you're busy, and your perspective of everything changes completely. Like, you're trying to keep up, you're trying to be active, and your sales, you're trying to turn them down, right? So that could be any one of us at any time, or you could go through a real busy period. The economy's busy, you can go busy period, but you've been so busy working through projects that you haven't done any selling. I'm not recommending that you do this, but it happens, right? You make choices in the morning. It's like, okay, I got this due. I'm way behind on this. Do I do this or do something that's really long-term, like sales process? And you can come from a really busy period and all of a sudden go through a slow period because you just haven't been, and I'll point to Trevor here doing what Trevor would say, you haven't been doing your marketing and putting that on automatic and getting your channels up. So things would change really quickly for us. You can take it back to the mortgage, right? For me, I've got a long-term mortgage. I've had a house for so my son's 21. I've had the house ever since he was born. I remember having a mortgage rate at 6.5 and feeling like it coming down to 6.5. So for mine, I already got stung. My mortgage rate went up. It's all context, right? So just like everything is, right? So if you're busy, you're going through a busy period and you hear somebody else saying it's slow, you're like, what's wrong with them? but you could be sitting in the same sort of environment and experiencing very different things. So, but that said, what's any wins, guys? Any new business that you weren't expecting? Any new ideation? Anything new in your system? Like, I mean, there's AI talking abundant. I'm sure there's some elements like that. Does anybody have anything like that?
Yeah, so I got a referral from one of my long time people in one of my networks, and it worked out that I've got 2, possibly 3 of their locations now, and I might get another 5 of their locations.
Oh, sweet. So an
What did
existing
you?
client?
Sorry, Daniel.
No, go ahead.
It's a brand new client, but it was a referral from an existing client.
And just in context, Daniel, what you do for Menu?
So I do IT, network services, telecom, fiber internet, and custom software development.
So there's a real example. So you got a referral for new business that could lead to multiple new opportunities. Is that correct?
So the new client is they've actually got a unique business model in this current economic environment. So you know how all these developers are sitting on all this land that they can't get financing for to develop. So they're repurposing that land until it gets developed, turning it into pickleball courts and paddle courts.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. So
I
they've
see
got
a
to deal with Quadrille.
Oh, that's interesting. Dude, I've seen a lot. I've been in Hamilton, like that's where Daniel's from, is Hamilton. I remember walking by the same lot of land right downtown, still prime property, just sitting there. I guess the developer's waiting for something to turn in the environment before they develop it. This was like
Are you
real
talking
slow.
about city center?
So I used to work across from the Courthouse. I'm trying to think it's been a while now. It's been like 6 years. So I think it's King
Oh,
Street.
you're talking about the property at the southeast corner of John and Main.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know if it's been like there's been a lot of new development, a lot of condos going in, a lot of like business
And it's
coming in
gone
now.
through, I think, 2 or 3 different owners.
Oh shoot. Yeah. That could make things look sour, that's for sure.
But anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, one of the places where they're putting in these pickleball courts is Center Mall.
Center Mall. Is that like near Jackson Square? Sorry, is that
No,
up the-
that's that really crappy area over in East Hamilton,
Okay.
right down by the steel mills.
Oh, okay.
I hope to hell they don't have any outdoor courts.
It's funny because I've seen some interesting restaurants popping up in that. Well, back then, out of the blue, rough neighborhood, a really nice restaurant, and then all of a sudden the crowds start coming in. That can change an environment pretty quick, right? Pulling people in. It's look at this. Start seeing
But it doesn't
it
get
could
rid
be.
of the steel mills.
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah. You're gonna have that in your back window for a while, I guess.
Yeah.
What about you? You've been busy. How was tax season this year?
It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. My 3rd tax season was great. Better than the previous one. Yeah.
So it's growing every year. That's nice.
Been every year. Yeah.
And how are you? And your processes? Have you changed it? Like working on your own versus working for somebody else? Have you got your processes real honed out?
I think I'm at a spot now where I need to start looking at automation.
Yeah.
I was going old school the past few years, and this year I realized I can't go old school anymore. Excel just cut it. So yeah.
So what would you automate in your world?
I'm gonna look at the there's a free version of HubSpot. I'm gonna look at that, right? See how that works. My engagement letter, I need to standardize it a little bit more. Like the lawyer gave me this template. I think I butchered it now. I got to go back to the original and kind of standardize it a little bit. So just things like that, right? My invoicing has to be more automated. So yeah, every little aspect helps, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. And all of those, there's like, so HubSpot, good person to talk to. We got 2 in the group that deal with HubSpot. Vanessa, on especially if you're just getting started, she's pretty good on that. And then Rob as well does that. He's a value added reseller.
Yeah, I actually had a call with Rob right before tax season. I told him, let me get through the next 2 months, then we'll circle back.
Nice.
So I've
Nice.
got to do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
and
sure
if
Vanessa
anybody
is good.
needs good prices on lawyers, like on legal services, you can try goodlawyer.ca.
Is that one of those subscription ones?
No,
no?
they actually have fixed prices for fixed legal services.
Oh, nice.
Are they in
Okay.
Canada?
Yeah, they're in Canada.
Okay, that's good.
.ca. Manu has some good contacts as well. Still, are you still with BNI, Manu, or?
I am for now. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I'm going to renew or not, but yeah, I am for now. Safe
And
space.
if any-
It's a safe space, yeah.
It is, but I'm recording this, so keep that in mind. It will be on YouTube. I don't get a ton of traffic. It's just really mainly for the B2B cohort for the replay. But yeah, no, I think everybody that I talk to that
I don't care.
goes in
Yeah,
front of
I'm
BNI.
just kidding. You could announce to the world. I couldn't
Yeah,
care.
yeah, I think everybody evaluates. I talked to Julie. Everybody that's been in there have been in. I think everybody gets some good value from BNI, and then I think every time the fees come up, the decision you got to circulate about it.
Personally, for me, I just feel like I've given a lot more than what I've given.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you know, and I totally believe in that whole giver's gain mentality. I truly live by it, which is why I think I've given more than I've received. But after a certain point, we are human, right?
Yeah.
So we like some sort of reciprocity.
Yeah.
And I'm at a stage now where I think it's enough. So
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. What about you, Rajiv? Are you guys, you and your wife going to the Ryan's event in Burlington coming up? It's May 27th.
No, I can't. Not in Burlington because one, I have a conflict at that time. But I've told Ryan I'm actually looking. Hoping to go for the Toronto one if I'm around. Number one, it's much less of a drive for me, and two, it gives me a chance to look at meet some different people there as well. Because last time he invited me to the Toronto one, but he tends to usually have it on Tuesdays, and that's the day I lecture.
Oh, okay.
Taking a break for the summer, so Tuesdays opens up for me now.
Nice.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping that I'll be around. I'm hoping it'll be and last 2 weeks of July I'm going to be out of the country, and then so I'm hoping somewhere between now and first 2 weeks of July is when he has his Toronto one. So I'm hoping to go to the Toronto, not the Burlington one. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And for popping, seeing different crowds. I do hear that the groups are slightly different for both. So
Yeah.
Toronto's just, I used to work downtown Toronto. I know that commute. I know I should go. That's just like, I have a hard time getting myself to go all the way down there. It's just a challenging commute, especially right after work. Although he starts at 6, which gives you a little bit of time to let the traffic way down. Marino, why don't you say hello tell these guys a little bit about yourself, just because they have not had an opportunity to meet you. And if you can, share any wins or challenges that you've gone through recently.
Yeah. I mean,
oh, that's right. Marino reused. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No worries.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, nice to meet you. Yeah. So for myself, I'm a visual content guy. So basically, photography, videography. Live in Burlington. The last few years, spent a lot of my time in the Toronto area, and over the last year, I'm trying to kind of do more homegrown local businesses, performers. So I'm trying to build that avenue and stay away from the Toronto world. And that just kind of falls into a win. So patience and persistence, I think, has always been a key thing for myself. And just this past weekend, I got word that I'll be working with a local music studio and some of their artists. That'll be coming up starting tomorrow. So yeah, looking forward to that. Different kind of genre. I've done like events, portraiture, concerts, products, fashion, just a whole slew of things. So open to a variety of different, again, visual content, be it photography or videography. But a guy that is part of your group, Robert, gets into web development and that, suggested I check you guys out, and yeah, here to see what it's all about, and seems like there's a good group, so looking forward to it.
Excellent. So how much of that, going back to Daniel's question, Daniel had the referral last week. How much of your work comes from referral, versus actually doing marketing and chasing and whatnot?
Yeah, so that now that I'm going into a new area, will play a big role. Obviously, I can kind of hand off and reach out to some of the guys that I've got in the past as projects that I've worked on, and use them as referral checks, if that be. But a lot of it is trying to get face to face, show them your work, and it's getting a little bit more difficult because there's a lot of people out there now. As soon as they have a camera or phone, they're photographers, but like the general public don't realize the difference between a professional and a non-pro is you've got commercial insurance, you've got backup equipment. I can't say how many times I've been involved if on a project and the main photographer is dead because his one camera is pooched, or he doesn't have backup memory, and it's like so when you're paying for somebody to take care of you, videography or photography, be it an event or even a wedding, a sure sign of somebody who's not a pro is the equipment and experience. So trying to educate people what they don't know about the industry, I find is pretty important. So a lot of my business is hunting and finding it, and if you do a good job, then those guys do recommend you afterwards. But for me to build the Hamilton and Burlington area, it's more door knocking and trying to get your name out there.
That makes sense. I can relate. So I'll tell you an old school story about, everybody's got a camera now. I remember I started on the design side. I started doing graphic design way back before the Stone Age kind of thing. And back then it was like word processing tools that all of a sudden everybody was using to create ads and whatnot, right? So obviously, and then there's way better tools now like Canva and whatnot, but people can definitely tell pro versus a non-pro. And I think menu and you could say, hey, Intuit tax, maybe that cut into your business. But really it did is it took away the business that you probably don't want to be doing work with and left the cream of the crop to deal with the cream of the crop, right? So I see I think people can definitely tell. Like there's been so much stock photography used in websites that websites just look, they don't have a unique look anymore, right? So that just being able to use that professional services. Trevor, you haven't met, you were on last Tuesday's call, but you haven't met these gentlemen. Maybe just say hello.
Well, I've met Manu before, so Manu, nice to see you again. And
We go way back.
absolutely.
Is that BNI times or because you were?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we have a few BNI people in common there, so absolutely, Manu, don't worry, I won't say.
Yeah, and I met Trevor at that Ryan event there.
Ryan, yeah.
Oh,
we met
okay,
there, and then
okay.
we saw each other at
It was like a big reunion in Burlington.
Yeah.
It
All
really
my
was.
friends were there.
Yeah, it's where I met Marta again. So on that, in fact, she invited me out for that. So and Julie did as well. So yeah, Julie LM. So but for me, I run a marketing company, and we try and do it all only to make the client feel well covered. But as a business, that is a challenge to try and do too much and not standardize or refine or only offer sort of the best of a few things. So yeah, operationally, that's a big challenge. But we get into the web design. And I also use a great network of contractors and suppliers as needed to make what we do better and what the client needs much better. So I guess I run it out of Hamilton and been doing so for 20 years. So it's still in the game, holding on by fingertips some days, it feels like, but still enjoying it. And yeah, we just had a long-term client, a newer client who had been a long-term sort of business and went out on their own. And when they started, they considered marketing sort of their one of their weaknesses in their SWOT analysis. And in about 8 months, we've turned it into a strength, so that they felt well supported and taken them in the right direction. And operationally, I think right now a weakness is time to from client sort of referral to referral. I'm having a
The first
Monday
pay-
afternoon
paycheck?
on a Tuesday, but time to proposal and to attacking sort of the game plan is a little more drawn out than I'd like it to be. And that's caused a couple of referrals, a little bit of frustration, hoping that we would jump on something the next day, for instance, have a proposal in hand, and our proposals are a little more drawn out. So there you go.
So that's on your side, not necessarily the client. I thought you were
That's
saying
on-
that
Well, I
the
think
closing is taking longer.
expectations, I've learned that, we got to manage expectations, and where there hasn't been a clarification to it, I think definitely we need to realign that, but certainly on our end. Yeah, it's just working with such a versatile team, and the same would be, for the in-house people, but with versatility comes other people's pressures and timelines, and has gotten in the way of what I wanted to deliver as fast as I wanted to.
So as Manu was saying earlier, he's got to work on some automation and whatnot. Is there systems that you could put in play to kind of remedy that? Like you said, expectations. So maybe some of the conversations you have with the clients, like when to
Yeah.
expect to get back and why. I mean, there's advantages of having a loose group of subcontractors, but then you've got to go through a chain of costs, right? When you're doing a proposal, you got to
Absolutely.
put a proposal together. It's not all in your camp, right?
No, I think, yeah. So to the point, I mean, I think that we've identified one, which is I think better client communications and expectation alignment so that they understand what's going on. I think the second thing we need to do is figure out how to create a loose game plan that maybe covers all of the bases of potentials within it so that they can see sort of what might happen. And then obviously in the proposal, talk about sort of a step process where we would start with step one, perhaps a discovery, and then strategy, and then any number, and these other things might be in play after the strategy, whether or not they're relevant or not, rather than trying to define the strategy sort of prior to the engagement, which isn't efficient in its own way. But the client feels like their game plan, now they can choose from a game plan. But I think trying to be too rigid and offer too many details at the proposal stage might be a bit of a hindrance. It certainly is to speed. So
Do you feel pressure from the client to put more into the initial proposal, or are they okay with you breaking off the proposal and starting? Let's get going now. Let's get going quicker. Let's do discovery kind of thing, right?
It's certainly a lower hanging fruit. I think it gives them an easier sort of discussion piece. The challenge is when dealing with bigger companies is they want to have a sense that they have a 12-month sort of plan as to how they're going to get from where they are in pain and problem to, a sort of a solution to the end. So it's a combination, I think, that, I got to figure out again how to do it. And in going through this bit of a crunch time lately, I'm learning that, I've got to try something new. And, I thought this would be the perfect meeting to sort of bring it up and see if anyone else had a better process or a process that worked in their sales process without having to come in so specific in the sales, but give them enough that we can agree to move forward. So
That makes sense. Ali, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that's what I do. I work on processes. I help companies. I work with startups mostly, small businesses. I help them automate their workflows, their SOPs, help them grow. I've been doing it for a while, and lately I've been building AI agents to automate that too. So it takes me out of the equation, and they have a consultant with them, AI consultant, who can do that. So yeah, we can always talk. I would love to know more about what you are doing, what you are thinking, and how can I bring value, or maybe how can one of my AI agents bring value to you?
perfect. Good. Yeah, let's set that up.
What about with what Manu was saying as well? Those like you said you had to automate some things. I mean, you kind of hinted a little bit in terms of HubSpot, like so. I'm assuming some marketing outreach. You talked about invoicing. I don't know if that was getting that first invoice out and chasing it afterwards. What specifically are you talking about?
Me?
Or-
Yeah, Manu. Sorry, Manu.
Manu.
Yeah.
With invoicing, well, I use QuickBooks, right? So you can actually, it's funny, I'm a certified QuickBooks user and I don't even use the tools, but you can actually pre-populate certain fields. So you don't have to retype it every time. And I don't do that. It's so stupid of me, but I need to go do, there's little things like that, right? Just go do that. standard pricing for certain products. Like I know I charge this much for this product. It doesn't change. And you can actually program that pricing for that product. Just stuff like that, right? So yeah.
I could totally.
Product, services and bundles.
Yeah. I was just gonna say the same thing, Daniel. You know about these things, whether or not you choose at any moment in time that that's your priority to work on. That's where you'll hit the same situation again. Oh, look at that! If I had just, but like what Daniel's saying. So back in the day, it's been a while since I've used HubSpot, but they were working with Proposify as a proposal option. I'm sure they have better tools now. But one of the things we could have, as a service industry, I was using it, we could have tried to, and the service industry is always trying to add some product elements to what they're delivering. So you can do this, but you could have almost like a smorgasbord of here's product A, B, C, D, and you pull them together really quickly. You have elements of that proposal that are pre-written that stay standard that you pull it all together and then you can edit slightly. There's lots of ways that was and we're talking 6-7 years ago that was around. So there's stuff out there. It's just, you got to make those decisions on a daily basis. Like where are you thinking long-term, help yourself down the road, or immediately, like today, I got to get this done. And you forget about when you're beating yourself up the next time you're going to do the same thing you could have automated before you're beating yourself up, but you probably don't remember the context of when you made that decision last time. Like you had these other fires that were going on. You probably made the right decisions, but like here you are kicking that same can again, right?
Yep.
And QuickBooks Online has a ton of automation too.
Yeah. I like their invoicing as well. Although, I get complaints with invoicing works really well when you have smaller invoices, but you get really dinged because they'll do a scrape off of them, right? So I for myself using Stripe as well now, like makes it super easy. It has a lot of some automation in there to do especially for recurring purchases and stuff like that. But you're doing a scrape, and they show you here's what you charge, here's what you've got out of it, and you can see over a length of time how much of that is going out the window. So it's a tough decision, but personally, I think it's worth it because it's just one other thing out of your plate that you would have paid for gladly if you didn't before you had it, right? So, Reggie, sorry. So how are things going with Workday? Has there already been any turnaround on that? Have you had any clients take up on that?
Honestly, Richard, we have been a little. We haven't really done a whole lot with the Workday yet because for a couple of reasons. One, was the initiative driven by my business partner, but he's got his mom and his dad both were having health issues, and he had to be in Florida for a while and Edmonton for a while, and so he's as we speak, he's in Edmonton. So we've kind of targeted to kind of get together, kind of put our heads together sometime in June, when he can, finally lift his head away from his family health issues, which obviously, take precedence over anything else. So, so we're thinking, kind of put our heads together in June and figure out what we're going to do from a marketing plan perspective and how to leverage the Workday sales aspect of it. But yeah, unfortunately, we haven't done a lot of traction. We haven't had much traction on that because we haven't really put a lot of effort into it. Yeah,
that makes sense. And you know what? Is June a slower time for you, or can you predict that? Do you have seasonal times?
No, not really. I mean, it's funny because this year I think has been a lot busier for me than last year. Last year, especially the first half, was really, really slow. This year, I think with a lot of the macro factors and uncertainties and stuff, people are a lot more open to having discussions and actually wanting the advice and guidance and stuff. So things have been much better, but I don't think we have any seasonal, like unlike Manu, where obviously he gets like ridiculously busy for during the tax season. We don't have something like that, but it's a pretty consistent kind of sales cycle for us, right? I've had multiple client wins, some of them ongoing, some of them one-off. But I think the bigger win for me, which is a non-traditional win, and I kind of lucked in, it kind of fell into my lap, was that I was invited to join the board of a credit union. And so that happened in April. So I think there's a lot of benefits ancillary benefits that'll come out of that. So I think it was a lucky win.
Congrats,
Not
man. It's
something I was
amazing.
really kind of, going after or anything like that. Yeah. Sorry, Manu?
It's a congrats. It's amazing.
Thank you.
These lucky wins that you could talk about them in the instant, they feel lucky, but I'm sure that's well earned over a grind.
Exactly.
For long-
Nothing is luck. Nothing is
Yeah,
luck.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
work
yeah.
you've done in the past that comes back to fruition.
Yeah. Ali, so tell me a little bit more about AI agents. It's relatively new. What do you find that you're moving? What are clients buying into more? Because it's still pretty new in the market, right?
Not really. It's not really new. It's just more publicly known now.
Yeah.
Like I have been working in the field of AI since 2011, 2010. And even then, the idea of AI agents was there. But now it's more commercialized. And since I work with startups, they look forward to adopt and adapt to these processes. The issue is that most of the processes in our businesses, they are designed for us, for humans, right? And they're not designed for AI. So people try to plug and play AI, and that's not how it works. And so when I discuss with my clients, some of them have even said that they just want AI they don't even know why, but they just want to put AI in there. And it could be for better or worse too. So I always guide them not to do that when you don't know your own processes, and AI cannot fix your processes for you. So that's not a solution. It's like a band-aid, right? So these days, I'm trying to preach that idea that AI is not, it's not a solution for everything. It does help, but it can also make it worse.
Make a bad process faster and worse. It takes you down a bad channel faster, basically, right?
Right.
Any immediate, any easy, I hear a lot, listening to the podcast, talking about some easy ones where just automating something they do on a regular basis. Like you might have even just small little things like, okay, I'm going to do, for me, it's not automation so much, but just deciding to do a mail merge versus, building templates in my CRM so that I have, recognize I've answered this question more than once. Let's build a template for it so I can automate it and then build that into an automation kind of thing.
Right.
Any quick wins that you discovered?
Yeah. So the basic ones, sending an email, scheduling an email, that are very common now. But it's more than that. It's more like creating a whole workflow based on yourself, based on your thinking, based on your idea. So, for example, one of my clients is a neuroscience. It's a healthcare startup. I was talking to a doctor just before our call. He's a neuroscientist, and he wanted to build processes that would reach out to the clients based on circadian rhythms. So, and I was like, what does that mean? What do you mean, right? And one of the ideas that the team had. So, when to reach out to a client. So I don't know if you know about this, but you might have heard of circadian rhythms, right? So we have energy flows. We're active in the morning, kind of slump in the mid-afternoon, and then have a quick rise of energy near the evening, right? So they wanted to reach out to the clients when they have better energies. So maybe in late mornings or early afternoons and things like that. And they wanted to automate it. So what I'm saying is that it depends on the clients, what the requirement is. It could be anything. The idea is to automate it. That's been there for a while. So Zapier and all these things to do that. And then the idea for AI to automate it itself without human interaction, that's the new thing. So like so understanding the company culture and then using that knowledge, using that data to start automating things without human supervision. So that's the next step.
Yeah, excellent. And I think too, if you've got a lot of small little steps that are automated, start linking them together too. So you got like a lengthier one. But I have the intuitive automation. I like that circadian, like it's your rhythm for your own day, basically. Okay, I'm gonna this, and this is gonna happen. I'm gonna just set it up, right?
Yeah.
Have you done any Trevor, have you built any automations in terms of what you're doing?
We have only a few. I think it's worthy of a conversation to see what automations we can do. I think it's a well-timed sort of ask on that, and I think business it is enabled in so many ways now to be able to process what they do in new ways. Have AI sort of record what you do and document it, and then you can turn it on to some sort of automation. So no, I think now is the time. I'm glad we're having this conversation. Yeah.
Marino, anything in your world that's been easier over the last 2-3 years just from technology?
Yeah, and I've been somewhat stubborn to dive into it, but like simple things within even like Lightroom and Photoshop, they're using a lot of AI technology, which for me, I like to edit my images to have that personal touch, but with AI now, you do have the ability to speed things up. Like now, if you have an image, you can tell it just to select the background and it will do it pretty good. And then you can make the adjustments and then select subject. I just want to adjust their hair. So select hair, they'll find the hair and then you can make your adjustments. But I know there's AI tools out there where you could send a batch of images to the AI and say, okay, just pick out of the 1,000 images I'm giving you now, everything that is sharp. And it will nuke all the rest. And then out of the 1,000 or 500 images that are sharp, you may be able to ask it, okay, out of those, what do you think are the best top 200? And it will siphon through all the images. So you have your 200. And if you wanted to be lazy enough, you could say, okay, now edit them. And in such a manner, you might be able to choose the type of editing you want and be done with it. So that's something I've got to look into because I know other photographers are doing it. But like I said, I'm just being stubborn.
I like what you're saying. It's taking a lot of the repetitive, painful stuff that you would have to do. Is taking that and then putting in front of you where it needs your most attention, basically, right? Rather than you wasting hours going through and doing what it could do quickly. And really, maybe you might have the money that are value added there, but your real values in doing this one little thing, right?
Sure.
That's kind of neat too.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Has anybody can pick this up, but if I'll direct it to you first, Marino. Have clients hinted at, with AI, you should be reducing your costs, your pricing? Has anybody kind of hinted that way to you?
No. And I'm not sure if there's a trend moving away from it. Like maybe 2 years ago or so, it was kind of the cool thing to take somebody's picture and say, okay, now make me, like if it was a female, say I want something like a Wonder Woman background and make it look like, I'm Wonder Woman kind of a thing. And you could do that with AI and editing and that. But I think that's gimmicky thing is kind of changed. So I haven't had anything personally to say, reduce the costs or can you do this yet. But again, things change. I know AI is going to make it easier for people who don't necessarily have the skill to take really good images or really good videography, and then you'll have AI kind of cheat them into making it half decent. But I'm a true believer that AI is just going to get better and better. And for certain industries, it will have, kind of a negative impact, potentially on certain services, but time will tell.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's good. There's a pain before the gain, I guess, or the gain and the pain at the same. There's going to be a back and forth, right? Some things will be taken away, some things will be degraded in terms of quality, and then people get better at it and
Yep.
gain and grow from there, basically, right?
Yeah,
So
true.
I'm myself, I'm slow like you, Marino. I'm like, there's the quality. I want to have that last look, but I've been using it quite a lot. I use it more. I've been using it more from a thought perspective. There's this concept of the checklist concept. I can't remember who wrote the book about it, but the checklist concept. And I found, like if you had your own checklist, like when you're at your clearest point of mind, like, so Manu, if you went through now, when you have your freshest break, and you started developing a checklist of things you should do differently the next time you get busy, you can refer back to that checklist and you'd be pretty accurate. What I've been using AI a lot for is just developing that checklist before going through the pain. So like, just like there's things that I do repeatedly, and I'll just run it by and say, here's my solution to this. What am I missing? Right? Boom, boom, boom. And it'll be everything that it'll tell you is like, oh man, of course, like I should have thought of that, but it's just like humans have the natural way to glaze it over. So I've been using it a ton and then also as a thought partner, just like, here's what I'm getting out of it, or even an analysis, like if I get a long request from a client, like pull this in, pull what I've done before, make an initial recommendation of where to start, and it gets the ball rolling. I used to do art when I was young, and when you were stuck with a blank canvas, it was a painful thing. Like you didn't know where to start. The teacher would come and just take a bit of ink and just splash on your canvas. Like, okay, you're free now, get going, kind of thing, right? It's kind of like what that AI can do is, you're stuck a little bit. You pull what you know together and just get you nudged forward a little bit. But I don't know if you guys have played around with that. Daniel, anything like that in your world?
So I don't just use AI for automation. I use regular automation as well. So I use Power Automate. So one of the things I do with Power Automate is I have an email that comes in that it's a standardized email, comes in regularly. It's automatically produced, it's generated, and it's got an attachment on it. So what I do is I strip that attachment off, I dump it into my SharePoint folder, and then I delete the email.
Nice.
Because I'm only really interested in that file.
Nice.
And
so you got a number of those activities going on to make your life easier.
Yeah, and then plus I also write custom Python code to automate some stuff as well. Sometimes some bash scripts on Linux. What else is there? Came across Centra.ai lately. It's got like 12 virtual assistants for your business.
Oh, nice.
So
what about helping you with the coding and just like the grunt elements of it? Are you using it for that?
So like the cookie cutter programming, that's great for AI.
Yeah. Like the stuff you have to do, setting up objects.
But before we used to hire Chinese programmers for like $10 an hour to do that.
Yeah. Now you can do the AI agent can do that basically. Right. Nice. Excellent. What else, guys? Any other wins? Any other? What about some things that knocked the wind out of your sails for a little bit? That was a learning. Any big challenges that have come across and given you the opportunity to step back and learn and say, "I'd do that differently next time"? I'll share one from. Well, I mean this example that I was talking about at the beginning. My biggest challenge when you're starting with a new client is there's an element of risk on both sides of the plot. I used to have this conversation all the time with the client. There's an element of risk. If you pay me first, you're worried that, I'm paying, what am I going to get for the pay? Am I going to cut and run with all the fraud going on and stuff like that? And for myself, if I do too much, invest too much into the work, I'm worried I'm going to have to invest my time chasing you, right? So I've been spending a lot of time. What's that fine point? Breaking down a project, like you said, Trevor, breaking it into steps. So making that first payment really small and the first deliverable fairly quickly after it. because I find once you get past that first invoice or first or second invoice, first or second project, as regardless if it's small or not, then you got a comfort between, okay, this person's going to deliver. They get a little example of your work. If their guards come down, I feel more comfortable because I've been paid, and then you can elaborate on that. It's like that's one of the wins for me. Having somebody like just questioning, sometimes working in isolation like this, you wonder what everybody else is doing. And when I heard somebody else has different payment terms that I thought would be more attractive to a buyer on a first time basis, I was like, okay, let me try that. But it got me away from my comfort zone. Any other challenges that you guys have, doesn't have to be on those things. What have you walked in that was a great learning experience, but potentially expensive learning experience for you? I'll let that pause for a bit as you guys think on that.
Well, in the beginning, when I started my practice, someone duped me for $2,500, and I just learned my lesson that moving forward, I take the money up front and then I do the work, right? But to your point, if it's a large project, like like a lifetime capital gain exemption that costs like $25,000, then we break it out in chunks. So there's 6-step process to it. We break it out into 6 steps, and you pay us, then we do the step. Otherwise, we don't do it.
Yeah. And then they can cancel at any time as well. That's what I would do, right? Okay, let's make it fair. You can stop anytime. I can stop anytime. But here's the process of how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Those 6 steps, is that pretty natural to figure out? Or did you have to play with that to get what the most
For the
comfortable
lifetime
steps were?
capital gain exemption, for example, like once you have, so accountants have to create, it's called notes. We call it notes, and basically it's a step-by-step detailed analysis of what needs to be done. And once you provide that to the client, about $5,000, once that's done, they can take that to any accountant, right? And accountant with half a brain can do it, right? But a lot of accountants don't know how to prepare those notes. And it happens, right? Sometimes they'll take it and they'll go somewhere else. But then, if that person is charging less somewhere else, is it because, why are they charging less? That's a question you got to ask yourself.
Right? And I think once they've done that first transaction with you, the likelihood of them going somewhere else is even if they do, like some will always. But I think once that first transaction happens, they're more inclined to keep moving forward with you. It's just easier. It's less friction, right?
They are. But what I've learned is that if you don't get a good feeling in the initial call, just drop them. In the beginning, I was desperate for clients, so I kind of pushed that feeling aside. But it always comes back to haunt you. It's not worth the money, right? So it's been a learning curve for me, but now I'm much better at it. Unless
you're like me, I'm super paranoid, and if I listen to that gut every single time, I'd have no money.
No clients.
I've had a few times where I'm having a conversation with my wife. There's no way I'm going forward with this business. No way. And then it turns out, 6 months later, it was the best chunk of business I've ever done. You just presented differently than once you get past those initial transactions, it almost became a different. Maybe we both presented differently after that, right? And it ended up being lucrative. So I got to be more cautious about what I'm pushing away in terms of risk, because that's my personality. But you may be, more risk averse or sort of willing to take risk on. Maybe you have to slow yourself down. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I mean, also when you start out fresh, right? You come from the corporate world. You have this, a salary every 2 weeks, and that salary comes to a stop, and now you got to go find your own fish. You're kind of desperate, right? So you take what you get, and when you realize it's not worth it.
No, 100%. I agree with that.
I have to agree with Manu. I think sometimes, when you especially have those exploratory calls and stuff, you get a sense of it. It's like an interview, right? The client's interviewing you, you're interviewing the client. You try to get a feel for the client. Can I work with this person, right? Goals will they be ultimately aligned? Because sometimes the client says the right thing at the start, and you're like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. But then you get into it and you realize that the client, I don't know, from my experience, client wants the moon and the stars, and which is fine. We can give them that to the best of our ability. But the problem is the client also has to be willing to cooperate with us and share information and spend the time to really understand, work with us. Right?
Was it last year, Rajiv, or 2 years ago when we met that lady at that networking event? So what happened is, so Rajiv and I, we go to this networking event, we meet this lady, and she wants to change her account. It's fine, so be it. She puts together this this RFP that she pulled out from ChatGPT, and she hands it over, and we fill it out, and then now she wants to go through an interview process. Right. First of all, the questions she asked made no sense. Then there's this interview process. And again, she's asking questions that make no sense. You're not Workopolis, you're not Monster.ca, you're just a startup company that has like 5 clients. And then she goes to us, well, I need you to subscribe onto my platform, and only those who subscribe will get my business. And Rajiv, so we tried for like this and that, and starts asking for money and this and that. And we're like, F it, we're not going to do this. If you want our business, if you want us to help you, let us know. We're not going to subscribe to your nonsensical platform. And that was the end of it. And then she disappeared. So a lot of these guys are just kind of looking for their own clients as opposed to trying to, find services.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's and like you said before, you come off of that salary, you're desperate, right? So that you're a little bit more vulnerable at the beginning, right? So what people can get away with at the beginning, but you won't get stung twice. It's a nice thing about it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, this,
I gotta drop off to another call.
yeah, me too. I was gonna wind up the
guys.
call, guys.
Yeah.
Good call. Thank you so much for dropping in, guys. I appreciate it. These calls are always interesting, the operations ones. All right.
Awesome.
And thanks for providing us the venue, Richard.
My pleasure, Daniel. Thanks for jumping in.
Appreciate it. Nice to meet you all. And thank you. And Ali, yeah, let's connect.
And nice to see you again, Trevor.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Richard.
Okay.
Hey, guys.
Take
Hey,
care.
guys.
Bye, guys.